Force, Luke.
Sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
Because it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
All right. It's Wednesday. Wednesday means one thing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Hopefully more times. Wednesday is FrostCast. So welcome back. We're going to bring King Z in because we got some stuff to talk about today. We're going to kick it off on a more somber note than we typically do. No opening jokey joke monologue beyond what I just kind of babbled my way through. Bad news out of Hollywood last night. Hey, Majors Go, what's up, dude? Bad news out of Hollywood last night. Val Kilmer passed at age 65. Been sick a while. You guys probably knew that going back at least a few years with the limited performance that he gave in Top Gun Maverick. We knew he was in rough shape and he'd been battling a kind of cancer for a while. And it looks like he passed late in the evening yesterday. I think pneumonia finally got a hold of him. For those of you that don't know, that's kind of a common cause of folks passing when they get cancer. It's not always the cancer that gets you. Sometimes it's other things, which is sad. I think I liked a lot of his stuff. I think a lot of people liked a lot of his stuff. There was an early reputation in Hollywood that he might have been difficult to work with, but I don't ever remember him being caught up in any scandals or anything like that. So, it's tough when we just lost Gene Hackman a month or two ago. So I don't like losing people that I liked in movies, regardless of their age, obviously. I'm not a fan of that. I know you had some stuff you wanted to say about it, and I think the Oracle put together a little something.
Yeah. So we lost a movie icon, someone who's been in a lot of our favorite movies, usually carrying the favorite characters. We put a little montage together, some of his greatest roles. We did not get them all, but just something to pay a little tribute to one of Hollywood's great leading men. He, from what you're saying, he was never really in a scandal, and a lot of people say he's just a great human being to be around as well. So, so if you'll play the footage,
roll it. Oh, yeah.
Well, get out on that floor and hit that rug tonight. Well, get out on that floor and hit that rug tonight. We're gonna shake that rug till the early light. I said,
morning. Something strange happened to me this morning.
Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you?
No.
Why am I the only person that has that dream?
You are still dangerous.
How young they are, man. That's crazy.
You can be my wingman anytime.
Bullshit.
You can be mine.
Look up idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you fucking are.
Who are you?
No one has a clue, least of all me.
The Saint.
Yep.
I see without seeing. To me,
Batman, yeah.
darkness is as clear as daylight.
You're blind as a
What am I?
bat.
please! You're as blind as a bat!
Exactly.
I got it wrong. That movie was over the top bananas. I like it.
I'm your huckleberry.
Yeah.
That's just my game.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for everything.
One last thing. Who's the better pilot? You or me?
This is a nice moment. Let's not ruin it.
I'm glad they got him in there for Maverick. That was good. even with the limited bit that he got to do.
And
At least
they were
it
going to
worked.
voice over for him. They were going to have someone else do his voice, but he insisted on doing it himself.
Yeah, he was already in a real bad spot with the diagnosis back then.
Yeah, but I mean, we missed some of the greats in there, like Willow, Heat.
Yeah. The Doors movie. Where
The Doors movie.
Where he was Morrison. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a golden god.
True Romance. Another banger that should be on there.
Mindhunters.
Mindhunters. Yep. Good one. I think that it's funny because the movies we just mentioned with Kilmer, right? I've seen all of the cheesy ones, like the Top Gun, the Willow, that kind of stuff. I love them to death. I've never seen Heat, and I was gonna ask if if that could be maybe we do a watch on that, because I think that's streaming, like it's old enough that it's streaming like everywhere, like we could find it.
Yeah,
maybe we could punch out a review for that. I've never seen True Romance in its entirety. I've never seen the Doors mockumentary movie thing that he was in, so I never saw that one either. But you bet your ass I've seen Top Gun like 400 billion times. I've seen Willow more times probably than anybody we know.
Real Genius was mine. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, a good one. That's what I mean. This guy had himself a career. 65 still feels like it's too young though, man. Like
yeah, definitely.
And I wish there was more that he could have. I wish there was more he could have done in Top Gun Maverick. Like if there was a more active role he could have played, if his health was better, even if it was some tropey, cliched mentor death scene or something. But given his health, obviously not going to have that in there. But it would have been nice. I'd have been okay with that. I think Tombstone, though, I'm glad you guys got the clip in that. That might be my favorite of his. That dog, he was snubbed that year for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he played.
It's not even not nominated.
Yeah, and he played one of the most iconic person in modern westerns of any western history, and no one will ever do it better.
Yeah, there was such a that movie's eminently quotable anyway because of what it is, right? But it's elevated by performances like his, with the mannerisms, the inflection to speech, the understanding that like the guy's terminally ill, but he's still the smartest person in the room in that movie by like an IQ of like 200 points. So like the little spars, the verbal spars that he gets into. Why Johnny Ringo? Like I love that, man. That's one of my. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. May just go, what's up? Tombstone was his best. Yeah, definitely. It's sort of bizarre that he went in a similar way to Doc, dude. Ironically and terribly. That's true. Unlike Doc, I hope Val passed at home, surrounded by about 800 billion family members and friends, comfortably, peacefully. If somebody told me pneumonia got him in his sleep, that would be the best outcome, in that kind of situation.
You don't want suffering.
Yeah.
You don't want to have the fear knowing that the end is right there.
Especially with the not breathing part. That's the thing. Those respiratory endings, those are awful to watch. Trust me. The rattle, you hear it, you never forget it. It's terrible. So if he passed in his sleep or if he was on hospice and they took care of him, pharmacologically, good. Like I'm all for that. Because you don't want to be alone.
Definitely Hollywood's a little bit lonelier tonight.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. A little lonelier, a little less dangerous. I could do without the latex bat nipples. Yeah, I noticed that in the thumbnails that I was checking out when I was going to put together our thumbnail. Like I thought the bat nipple thing was a Schulmacher on the Clooney suit thing.
No, it was the Val Kilmer suit.
Yeah, I did have the nips. So maybe the Schumer suit for the second movie there, the Batman and Robin. Maybe that was the dong or cod piece controversy. Everybody was stuffing the rubber down south instead of up north. Maybe that's
it was Clooney, so he needs some help.
He might. I mean, 4 billion reasons he doesn't anymore, though. So I mean, you gotta give him that, I guess. But yeah, that sucks. I mean, you don't like to see your heroes get old anyway, but you also don't like to see them checking out at an age that is so ahead of time, air quote time for when folks are supposed to go.
Yeah. And you were talking about like his performance in Tombstone was probably his best performance, but there was never a performance that he just like kind of cashed in. Kind of like what we see from Harrison Ford sometimes, especially with that Hollywood homicide movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes
they with the dog.
Yeah, and then there's I mean, all De Niro does is cash in on his name. He doesn't really put out a performance anymore. He never did that. He always brought his A game, even when he was sick and he did Maverick. And there was a movie before where he was tracking a serial killer where they completely had him dubbed over.
Oh, because of the voice.
For it. Yeah, because of the voice. I think it was right after his first surgery for the throat cancer he had.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're right. I don't remember him. He never packed in. I remember I had a discussion with somebody earlier. They came down a little hard on Batman Forever, and I get that. It's when you put Batman Forever next to either Batman 89 or like Batman Begins, like the Nolan Batman stuff. Batman Forever's it's throwaway. It's cheesy. It's got the neon lights. It's got the goofy looking suits.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it had a tone of its own. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, but that's not him. He played a good Batman, and he played a pretty damn good Bruce Wayne. He had obvious chemistry with Nicole Kidman as the psychiatrist in that movie.
I think she was one of the ones that pulled it down. I did not like her performance. And
she was not good. She was just smoking hot.
And then trying to watch Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey compete to try to take over each scene.
With Tommy Lee Jones not liking Jim Carrey personally or professionally, being public about it. Yeah, dude, for real. But as a kid, like as a preteen or a mid-teen or however, what was that? Like, I think that was 96. So it was a teen. You know, it did its dual identity thing. I got the trauma of my parents' death. He had my father wrote in this journal every day, and now he wouldn't anymore, and blah blah blah. I became Batman. Like they hit the notes they needed to hit for a Batman movie. I liked it. The Batmobile was sick. That's the one that had like the neon blue underneath it. Spiral didn't come until Batman Forever until Batman and Robin. That was the next Batmobile, but this one still had the blue undercarriage lights and shit. And I'm like, okay, I like that. You know, it was pre Fast and Furious before they did that. So I like that. But you know, like maybe while we're on the subject of taking on some of his movies, maybe we should do something like maybe we should take a look at Heat. You know,
okay, we can do that.
When was the last time you saw Heat? I mean, it's probably been a minute.
It's been a while. I watched it when it first came out, and then a few times because my dad had the dating myself the VHS tape.
Right. Yeah, I remember. And it's funny you mentioned VHS tapes because I think that there were probably a million opportunities that I walked by Heat at like Blockbuster Video, you know, like in 98 or whenever, 97. And I missed it at the theater, and I missed it at Blockbuster, and then you know Blockbuster closed.
And see, and one of the things they talked about in that is they said that, you know, Pacino was Pacino and De Niro was De Niro, but Val Kilmer was the star in that movie. Like how good he did.
Isn't there a story out there about that reload sequence? There's a shootout on like a highway or on like a city street, but his movement and his reload was so tactically perfect that it's used in like training videos or something for like SWAT operators. It's like a Keanu Reeves level gun course story. I think it's out there. I'm pretty sure it was Kilmer from Heat that the story comes from, is that he had practiced that tactical reload so often to the point that he got it so good that they literally show that scene in like demos as they bring in like cadets and shit, or as they train folks up. Might be some urban legend, but I've heard it thrown around enough that I'm like, story hasn't changed in like 20 years. Maybe there's an element of truth to it somewhere.
You hear a story enough, there has to be some truth to it.
I'm saying, for real, especially if it doesn't change. You know, like the telephone game usually takes over at some point, and you know, sooner or later, the little fish becomes the fucking whopper. But that's just the story I've heard.
Yeah.
You know? So cool. Yeah, it's too bad. That's too bad. But I think we got to move on. We got stuff to talk about and opinions to lay out there. There's meat and potatoes to handle with this episode. Anybody that saw King Z's headline today on the video up front, and if you can squint and see my little byline there, you want to go first? Or you want to get your global take out of the way? You want to tell me I'm crazy first, or how do you want to slice this pie?
Let's just talk about it. Let's just go into it. All right. Of course, we're talking about Daredevil Born Again. Episode 7 dropped yesterday. This is after the double episode where Matt finally puts the suit back on, and he encounters Muse for the first time. Now we have the fallout from that.
Fallout escalation, I would say.
Oh yes, let's get those spoilers done. We'll be talking about spoilers, so if you haven't,
as soon as you turned over there, I was like, she's telling him right now that he's got to do the thing. Nice.
That's why we need the Oracle to keep us all straight.
Her on board. Right, true that. So yeah, and we've said before on this show, man, it's not Game of Thrones, so it's not like you're spoiling like these giant plot reveals or anything that's gonna like take the wind out of the episode. But you really can't. It does. The story does progress in ways that you can't talk about the episode without giving up info. You know, key character deaths happen, relationships changed. One relationship that I was shocked to see like improved. It's strengthened noticeably and powerfully so in the last scene, which is probably I thought that might have been the best part of the episode.
That was probably the best plot point. Was that?
Yep. Dude, I lost. It's funny. I could misplace the notepad I usually have all my stuff on. So I have like a bunch of handwritten scrawl on my desk planner, like the blotter. So if you see me over here, it's because I'm trying to find shit that's like this big in the dark, because it looks pretty bright over there, but it's kind of dark down here. But dude, I'll give you my global take first. Did Leslie Headland get a crack at this show? Because without a doubt, this is the weakest episode in my opinion, we've seen so far. I have like a solid bullet point list of crap that didn't work. Examples of dialogue that was awful and out of place. And if I didn't know better, if I didn't actually see lips moving, I would have thought it was ADR'd over something that they just like omitted. I don't know. I mean, give me your big take first.
I didn't think it was a waste, and I do see that it was kind of, I would say, thrown together. But one of the things is, I think there was a big portion that was a waste, and I'll get to that. And I think MCU is very guilty of this and pretty much a lot of their stuff.
Put a pin in that, but I'm gonna get you to that like right quick. I just wanted to clarify. I didn't think this was a wasted episode. I just think this was the worst of the ones we've seen. Like, I get what they were going for. I understand that. But yeah, I don't, dude, honestly, dude, like I was flabbergasted, and I don't get to say that often. I feel like we've been on a hot streak, dude. Like, we've had a few good shows in a row. You've had a busted movie here or there, like Mickey 17 was kind of a bust. It's on streaming tomorrow. It's not, but you know what I mean.
No, it's going straight to DVD with no one owning DVD players anymore.
It's going straight to VHS, and it's going to be ending up right next to ET in the landfill. That's how bad that movie did. It's marginally better than Snow White, also going to DVD tomorrow. Excuse me, guys.
Is that a threat?
I know it feels like it, doesn't it? No, a threat would be had I actually gone to see it and actually done the review, but no, I had to pass on that nonsense. But yeah, no, this episode here of The Devil, it's fallout from last week, like you said, but it's escalation, and they resolved something major, like with
zero
almost like a throwaway.
Yeah,
you know,
that's the part I didn't like.
I mean, I don't. We can talk. We always talk choreography for sure. I mean, we'll talk about that. But I don't get that. And we already did the spoiler thing, so let me stop hedging and I'll just say it. Muse shows up to the psychiatrist's office. It's the kid from the book signing.
Yeah,
right? And like, okay, I mean, obviously, but they play like he's been her patient now, and he's gone through like 57 visits, and we've never seen any of that at all. So when he walked through the door for the appointment, I'm like, oh, finally, we're getting the first patient visit, because she said, you know, I'm not usually taking people, but I'll come by my office. Like in episode 1.
Yeah.
Like a month and a half ago. So when they escalate to obviously where it's going, because they were doing like cutbacks between crap people were like the Kingpin was saying to whoever, and crap Matt was saying to whoever, right, to the detective. And like they're obviously talking about this kid. And I'm like, but there was no burn to that at all. There was no build to that at all. And you know this scene is only going to end one way. And it was so horribly done. And I won't even get into the specifics of the why it was horrible. I just wanted to get your take on the setup or lack thereof, and then we'll go back and forth like we do a little bit here.
Yeah,
But I agree. I think this whole thing was busted.
This is what I was talking about with as a waste, is that you have a potentially great villain that you could use and milk and have different things set up around them, especially if they use the true muse from the comic book with abilities, and which might still play out. We never know. It is a comic book movie.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man.
They keep killing off their bad guys, like literally killing off their bad guys, leaving them with no real new. Like it's always, other than Loki, is the only real bad guy who became a good guy.
I was gonna say, yeah,
that's still around. Like they killed Thanos, they killed was it Zeo? They just keep killing them off.
Baron Zemo, yeah.
Yeah, Baron Zemo. They keep killing off these bad guys that could
Fire
be
King.
something more. And it just kind of ruins it, because where does the story go? One of the things that's great about the comic book is that they never really kill them. Sometimes they put them in prison, but somehow they always come back, and you can keep that story going. You can raise stakes and kind of have some more. Here it's just like, oh, we're one and done. And like it was like the waste of Bullseye kind of at the beginning. He had a point, but then they threw him in jail, and like this is Daredevil's number one bad guy, other than
in the jail.
Fist.
Right, he's on the raft or the island.
So I think it's just a waste of Muse. It was a waste of the character, and they didn't even use the real Muse. So,
I mean, not only did they waste the thing that because they set up the Muse as something interesting through the show, lurking in the shadows, painting the murals. He gets profile with the police. He gets profile with Daredevil. He gets profile with Kingpin. Everybody wanted a piece of this dude. Fine, that's good setup. But for me, it's really because and I guess I have to roll back my praise now. We had given this show early consideration as being like on a near Penguin level in terms of like, oh yeah, did I need to see what's next? This is pretty good. I like the performances. They didn't have a Kirsten Merlati on this show, like not on that level. Like there's nobody on the show that's going to win like a nom or an Emmy or whatever, Oscar, whatever. I always mix them up. But this episode here, like that back and forth between Heather and Muse, like there were lines of dialogue that I'm pretty sure like somebody must have taken a baseball bat to the head to deliver, because they were so wooden, clunky, especially from her. He played a pretty good psycho. I'll give him that. That kid played on a near what's that actor's name that's in all the American Horror Story shows? The young guy is Evan Peters. He's also Quicksilver. In some of the superhero shit. Like he almost escalated to that level. Like there was some performance power there. The writing was low though. But this woman playing Heather, I just don't think she has the chops. I think she's the weak link on the show. Honestly, like thanks for getting in the shower at Murdoch earlier and showing us a shoulder, but like you have to elevate higher than that. It's a Marvel show. You can't just get away with steamy shower scene, which is of note though. At least they went there in a rated R show. They gave you some skin. They gave you some rated R violence and language. I think that might be the only sex scene a Marvel show has ever done. Like even for what we saw, you know what I mean? Like I don't even like people tend not to kiss on these shows. So at least they're hitting a somewhat adult vibe, but her performance in that as a therapist, as a psychiatrist, terrible in that exchange. And then the whole thing, like you said, comes across as rushed. They go from, we're talking about I love my parents, to they forced me to do Taekwondo. I fucking hated that. They intercut with people realizing that he killed his Taekwondo coach. You know what I mean? And then in like the next scene, he's escalating to the creepiness and drawing with the blood from his nosebleed, like the Muse logo. And I'm like, every psychiatrist I've ever talked to, and I've talked to plenty professionally, would be out the fucking room the minute that happened, and so by the time he's kneeling in front of her, saying the question you have now is, can I get to the door? She should have already been throwing the headbutt that she threw later. See, that was where she fucked up. She should have just boom blown him up right then and there, and then she had a chance. But no,
that line should have been delivered from his side of the couch, and then him make the
right. The
jump over
where she gets exactly right. So the whole thing took too long, and then when they up the terror level, I'll give them that. Like the cutting for the bloodletting thing, that I got a thing for that. That's sketchy. So I mean, they scratched that itch, you know, like and the choking. There was some brutality that was laid into that scene, like bona fide, like terrifying. Like he had the one line, I wrote it down. It's over here somewhere. He's like, it was something like, even if I'm getting the setup wrong, but the line was, I can't guarantee your safety, or I can't guarantee I won't hurt you. That's pretty fucking chilling, dude. Because usually it's a sit there, don't scream, and I won't hurt you. This dude was like, I don't know, I might do it. Like it's a crapshoot. We don't know what we're gonna do. So that was chilling, and he executed there. Their scuffle, like when they finally did fight, like he hit her with the full on rock bottom through the floor, and I'm like, this chick's dead. Like there's no shot. Like she ain't getting. Yeah, but what did you think? Since we always talk choreography anyway, like when Daredevil finally shows up and this chick's bleeding out, and he has occasion to fight this guy. I wasn't even too impressed with this week.
I think the fight choreography was done properly. Like you got them both getting some licks in, but you definitely saw Daredevil just overpower him like he is a kid. So, which leaves me with a little bit of hope that maybe there's another muse that he was learning from, or something like that. So, because this guy definitely wouldn't be a villain that is Daredevil level. Like he would be normal cops, other than his body count. That's mostly because the cops are asleep. They didn't miss 60 people disappear.
Dude, let me get in on that. So at the beginning of the episode, it starts with Fisk talking to his now executioner guy, Buck, right? And he's got to be somebody in the comic, right? There's somebody that I don't know.
I don't,
because even the Kingpin's like, when I brought you over from your former life, like he's alluding to he's somebody. But they have an exchange where Kingpin's like, oh, you know, I promised the city I was going to keep them safe. And Buck says, well, we've seen serial killers before. And I'm like, motherfucker, you've never seen a serial killer with 60. Never.
No.
Not a thing. Like, not a thing. I think the American record holder, I think, is like 14.
Actually, no, it's actually Ted Bundy, who's believed to have killed 240 through his whole career.
Believed, but I think how many murders did they actually pin on him?
He only got convicted of like 4.
This is what I'm saying, right? So
they can't prove the others, but he's made like claims and notes about things before he passed away.
That he definitely did. Okay, so I'll take that with a grain of salt. But 60 isn't the same as this dude. You know, there was a mass shooting and this dude shot 4 people he knew, and we call that like a serial murder and a mass casualty event. Like 60 is a number. 60 puts you on the map. The city's never seen that. So I thought that was kind of silly right then and there, and that annoyed me going in.
And for a distinction, so a serial killer is someone who's killed 3 or more victims over a period of time, who avoids being detected and avoids being captured. A spree killer kills 3 or more in a set period of time, like over like a day or a week. He does it in a spree, and then a mass murder is 3 or more at one event.
You're right. So, but when we're talking numbers in the 60s, that's not that's not something that just makes the newspaper every day. And even in this world, that's a stupid high number.
And one of the things they got right with the serial killers that they were probably going after high risk people like prostitutes, transit people, runaways, people who don't have anyone reporting them missing. This is usually a common target for serial killers because they're easy pickings.
Won't be missed, right? So, and that kind of it's when you talk about the potential targets. I'm like, okay, so Muse had himself he was two different kinds of killer at once. He was what you just said, but then we get to that really weird scene where Matt Murdock goes back to the Muse's lair, hits a cop in the face with the baton, which was kind of funny because he's just like flicks it up there. I was like, those are always kind of funny to me. But he's investigating the artwork, and I'm like, all right, so you're blind, you have superpowers, but like you're touching a 2D plane that's been painted. Can you really feel differences and similarities? Like, did he paint it like Braille?
And you saw the frustration. He kept trying to feel like there was something, so he could feel something of it. The only one, there's one that had texture on it. That's the only one he got a read from. So you saw his frustration. So they did play with that he can't actually see.
And they set it up well too, because in the scene after the shower scene, like the next morning scene, he has the romantic scene with the girlfriend where he's touching her face things. I mean, they did some setup and payoff. I was happy they did that, but as a medical guy, when Daredevil takes off his glove and he's touching blood paint, I'm like,
leaving his fingerprints everywhere of an active crime scene.
That's next level. That's the next thing. I got something on that too. But like, you don't take the gloves off to touch the blood. You just don't. It's just weird. You just don't do that, right? But when we're talking about leaving, prints at the scene, how about this? I'm pretty sure when he was fighting Muse, I'm pretty sure Muse caught him with the knife because you get a wince from Murdoch as he's jumping back. So his blood's in her office. It's there. I'm almost positive I saw that go down like that, and I'm like, but because it's the fucking Keystone Cops, and like you said, dude, these guys are asleep. Which this is another one from my gripe list. Like the cop was it Cole North, the black.
Yeah, Cole North. Yep.
Right. He's giving Kingpin the rundown. Hey man, we got up there, and like first of all, he had some stupid line like the office was a chaotic mess. I'm like, bro, which 7th grader wrote that? Like, did nobody say that out loud? Like, if you threw that in the first draft you're working on, you bet your ass when you bring that to discussion, I'm gonna be like, dude, that's a terrible line. It literally slapped me. And I was like, I can't believe they delivered it like that, right? And then they're talking about, well, there was definitely more than one person up there. And the Kingpin's like, yeah, it was dark in there. There was no way to tell. I'm like, it was fucking broad daylight and the lights were on. What do you mean? And they got there after. Like he's speculating someone else did it because reasons, and he doesn't mention that the window is blown in.
Yeah,
like that somebody forcibly like egressed.
Not including there was eyewitnesses on the ground level, which they did play that up. Is right. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. I saw Daredevil go through that window.
Dude, I'm like, I just don't understand how it's just a mess.
Yeah, because what they were leading into and what they were trying to do was have that cover up so the vigilante wouldn't get the credit for bringing down the Muse. His police squad that he built with no body cameras and overtime and everything like that would get the credit. So it was just a big cover up that he was playing with. So they had to try to come up with something, but having it daylight, like this should have been happening like it's her last office call, 5.
Walk into the car.
And then it's like it went a little long, so it's like dusk, and then it happened in her office.
He gets her, she's turning out and closing the door to the office, trying to lock up. Right, classic stuff, right? But I mean, it's all of these little things that just structurally break down. Did I have another one right here for you? Right, I'm going to test your knowledge, how well you remember the last episode a little bit. Muse kidnaps Angela. It's not De La Hoya with Hector's niece, Ayala. Was it Angela Ayala? I don't know if they had the same last name, but the young girl, right?
Yep.
Muse kidnaps her and brings her straight into the lair and does what?
Stabs her in the leg. Oh no, he actually he said he put a sedative in her.
Right. But he acquired her in the alley or the tunnel, right? She's ostensibly knocked out because she's no longer struggling.
Yeah.
Right. He's carrying her like meat over his shoulder, puts her on the table.
Straps her down. He puts a sedative in her, and then he jams into her leg instead of her chest.
So at what fucking part did she see him blabbering incoherently over sketches on the wall that she's telling Murdoch about?
It could have happened between the time Murdoch got there, because she was hooked up for a while. She could have been in and out of consciousness.
Okay, all right. I could walk back. I guess I could walk that back a little bit, but man, dude, I'm like, they didn't give us any kind of hint of that at all on the way in. But you could be right. On the way out after Murdoch defeated Muse and Muse ran, he's there telling her, I'm here, don't worry, it's all good. Maybe she was awake enough. Was she really awake enough there to be talking about that? She could, at that point, she's not seeing Muse going over the sketches. Oh, I saw faces. You've been sedated. So they want me to believe it was on the way in, but they never showed me that at all. Like, it's not like she discovered the lair. She was looking around, she saw some shit, and then clunk. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit.
Yeah, she was still on her way there.
Exactly. She was which is another thing. When the cops go down there, and it was nice to see the negotiator back. She wasn't no jokes this time, but I like her as like if Cherry and Kirsten are like the B list cast, she's like a C, like Angela. She's one notch down. but she presents like a normal person. She gave like a good cop report to Fisk later. I was like, okay, this all kind of mostly works, except she had a dumbass line too, about rumors. I'll talk about that in a minute. But like this layer, how far down the abandoned subway line is it? Like, it's like they walked for like 5 seconds. This little girl walked for like 5 seconds and they were just there. No doors, no cameras, no fences. I mean, the cops had already been there before, I guess, after the Daredevil took down Muse. But like, still, it's like, it seems pretty fucking short. So it just seemed kind of weird, man. Like, you're just people wandering into the Punisher's lair. Like, it's just weird.
It might be them like trying to cut time. You don't need to see someone walk through the forest to find the bad guy. You just
for sure. Travel time's a bitch.
Yeah, you're supposed to enter a scene at the latest possible moment before you get to the point that you're trying to tell.
Right, for sure. In media res, of course. The cop's line about rumors slays me though. Like when she's giving the Kingpin the report, he says something about, we heard rumors that Muse wasn't the only one up there, or that the task force wasn't the only one there. That the Daredevil's back, the Devil from Hell's Kitchen is back, and she literally says to him, "There's no rumors. We don't have any confirmations, but yeah, somebody was up there." Like, that's exactly what a fucking rumor is, you stupid fuck. Like, come on. Like, that's literally what the word means. You don't know what happened. So somebody made up a story. Now you're like, no, we don't get a confirmation.
It would more classify in hearsay than rumor.
Dude, it's a fucking rumor. I mean, the community all saw Daredevil. The only people that didn't see Daredevil were the police. Like, that's it. I thought that was it. And I'm telling you, man, there was just like, this list has, I don't know, I got like 7-8 things on this tiny ass list, and I'm like, none of the other episodes had this cascading
this much clunkiness.
Yeah, and like even like here's another nitpick from me, just again with the medical background. I'm like, this woman's been assaulted. We watch her almost bleed out, and I'm like, dude, this chick's gonna die in the fucking corner. Like, he's not trying to stop dude, you stop the bleeding. You can't just say help's on the way while someone's bleeding out. You have to do something. You're Matt Murdock. Your IQ is 190 or whatever it is. I know you know how to stop bleeding. And they said it. They were like, oh, it looks like somebody stabilized this guy. Well, then you admitted somebody else was up there, stupid. Like, on top of that, right? But then they get this woman into the hospital. When she wakes up the next day, they got her running on oxygen fine. That's like something you do in TV, to put somebody in a hospital to make it look really serious, right? But I'm like, I don't know. They made it a point of saying 2,500 milliliters of blood were lost. Nobody says that. Nobody would ever say that. And number two, they'd be transfusing her constantly to get her back up to topped off. And like, they don't show you that either. I'm like, and then Murdock says, you might have a concussion or some bullshit, but you only have minor lacerations and fucking abrasions. Like, does anybody know anything in this show about trauma? This dude cut a 7-inch slice down her arm. It's suicide adjacent.
From her, where they stab you straight down.
Dude, it's my kryptonite as a healthcare provider. Like, dude, you get shot in the face and I got you covered for trauma response. You get cut like that, I'm like, nope, can't do it. It's an ingrained fucking can't do it. So they're like, it's minor. I'm like, no, that shit was stapled shut, and we're gonna have you on IV vancomycin for a while to make sure it's not infected. You're going nowhere next day. Stop it. And it's like you said, man, this episode has too many of these things. And
you have to think back to the last action hero, where if you get shot in the action movie, it's just a flesh wound.
Right. Yeah. If you get shot in the action movie during the action scene, it's a flesh wound. If it's the dramatic punch at the middle of the movie, you're dead.
Yep.
That's like, I had 5 days to retirement.
See, that's the one thing I always like, getting off topic here. One of the things I always wondered about in action movies is like, there's some people, the bad guys, one shot, they're dead. Yeah. Like, the good guy gets shot and he's around for a little while, unless it's the big bad who always comes back. Right. But like the minion, it's like one shot.
They get 10 HP. It's 10 HP. They're a one-hit kill anywhere, limbs, body, head, anywhere. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Or if you play D&D, that's 5 bunny rabbits.
Right? Yeah. So this chick, and I like that. Just to get back to the doctor, I'll give her one thing. Like, Murdock at one point throws the extendable part of the baton, and the metal wraps around his neck, around Muse's neck, and that fired a whole bunch of blood out his back.
No,
Is that what happened?
it was that weapon he was practicing with at the end of episode 5.
Oh,
Remember they were
right.
sleeping and he
Yeah.
went upstairs and the weapon it was that he shot out.
So did that cut the Muse's throat?
That went into his back.
Oh, it's like a Kusarigama kind of scorpion thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because that blood came out, and I'm like, I must have blinked. Because I thought when that blood explosion came out the back and basically like soaked the carpet, I'm like, dude, he cut his throat. Like, this is it. The devil went overboard and like killed this dude. He's gonna die.
He put it in his back.
Okay.
And the blood,
which makes sense because it came low. You okay. Thank you. This is our weekly installment of thank you, King Z, for clarifying the obvious thing that I missed. And so when he had him pulling him back in, I'm like, okay, here we go. But when we were talking about choreography earlier, one of the things I wanted to say was I feel like this was the most subdued fight in the show, and that's maybe why I didn't like it. That there was some good exchanges and a couple of good licks, but it was very subdued to me. A lot of reversally kind of parry kind of attacks and things like that. No faces to the fridge, like nothing savage until the end. And then Daredevil beat that dude's ass. So I'll give him points for the ending. But then refresh my memory. How was it that Heather had to be the one to shoot? Because Daredevil had him. Like this, I didn't miss a part where
I think she
Daredevil
just did it out of fear.
reversed.
She just
But
did.
how did he even stand back up? Daredevil was pounding him on the ground, dude. How did he get back up? I don't even remember.
I think he heard the gun click and he turned around and got up and he saw her with the gun and the Muse got up immediately after.
Oh,
and that's when
I think yeah.
But what type
right.
of? I mean, where do the rest of the bullets in that gun go?
It
fired like twice or 3 times, and then
She
it
got
was
3.
click, 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 click.
Remember, a couple went off. A couple went off in the initial scuffle because one went through like a pillow on the couch.
Okay,
one went
okay,
into the
that
wall.
makes sense.
Dude, it wasn't like 15. Dude, it's like he only loaded like 5 or 6.
16 in the clip and 1 in the hole.
Or a Massachusetts 9+1. Yeah, dude, I fucking hate this state, honestly. But either which way, like, the mag wasn't fully loaded. That's for damn sure. But like, and I think maybe that's just because they didn't want her to shoot 11 times. Maybe that was it. Like that scene would have taken 5 extra minutes.
One of the things we were training people for self-defense who have revolvers, we told them if they shoot somebody, keep shooting and then keep pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Because it shows fear, even though nothing's coming out. The repeat hammer things will show how afraid you were.
Mm-hmm.
That way they can't get you for overkill or anything like that. It just
that's what I'm saying, man.
But they're in New York.
Problem this way. Yeah, but they're in New York. The laws might have come a long way, but it's Muse. He's a piece of shit. It was a black market gun.
Yeah,
it should have had a Texas mag in it. A double stacked, fucking 500 rounds or some bullshit. I don't know.
But once again, MCU waste a good bad guy because we can't have any good bad guys return.
You know what? What do you think the odds are, given the amount of episodes we have left? Right? And what do we have left? 3? We get 10, right?
I think 10. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look. I thought it was a weird number.
I think it's 10 because next week's a double again. It's another twofer, and then there's a finale. So yeah, I think that's 10, right? 7, 8, 9. Yeah. I don't think they have time or the inclination to do the whole "this was Muse Jr." And you said that like an hour ago, and I'm like, damn, dude, that would be such a sick twist. And dude, I'd be like, gotta send you a gift, you and the wife a gift card for dinner, because that's an incredible pickup if you called that shot. Like,
no, I think what's really going to happen, truly, is Muse was a stepping stone to get him to compete against the anti-vigilante task force. And this is what brings back in the Punisher.
All right, well, I mean, at least we get more Frank, because I think the pace we were on with just seeing him like in his office, he's just kind of hanging out. He slapped Murdoch. That was pretty funny. He did the PTSD speech a little bit about moving on.
Yeah, but one of the things they're failing to do is build the anti-vigilante task force as a credible threat. When you have, and I'm going to go back to wrestling on this, when you have a feud going on to build up that big match or like a WrestleMania match, you kind of have to have that build up where you have to make the contender for the championship look like a uncontendable threat. You have to have him go on a little win streak. He has to pin the champ in like a tag team match. You have to make him make the audience believe that he could win the championship, even though there's no chance in hell that they're changing titles at the pay-per-view.
Exactly right. So what you're saying then is maybe 2 episodes ago, we should have already had this task force, and we saw them taking down other crappier vigilantes, good or bad, to demonstrate their effectiveness.
Taking down the Swordsman, or taking down Iron Fist, or
taking down White Tiger.
Oh, yeah, they did take down White Tiger, but that was before they were the task force.
That's what I'm saying, and it's only because he walked onto the wrong subway at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I think you're probably right on that one. I think it'll be a too little too late, or it'll be a complete rush job like we got with this Muse and the psychiatrist, where, like I said at the beginning, we moved from what I thought was him walking in the door for his first new patient visit. And it's like, oh no, I've been coming here for 4.5 years and you get me better than anybody. I'm like, really? Okay. Because I have no inclination to believe that this is like your 7th visit. Like if the show's been going on for 2 months. For Hector's trial.
But he also talked about like he's been following her for a while. He's read all of her books, stuff like that. So he had an affliction from afar. If you go back to the 3rd season of Daredevil on Netflix, it's kind of like Poindexter and that girl he was following. Same type of story beat.
True. That's true. You know, he did go, he was at her book signing. That makes sense that he was at least physically attracted to her and became infatuated with her work and being seen. So I guess that kind of tracks. But
you know what had the right timing? You know what had the right timing in this show? And that's Vanessa.
Vanessa. You want some takeout? I can't. I just give up on that voice.
Call Vanessa. She wants some scallions.
It was something I've never had that I can't afford. I'm guessing. So there's a setup scene there, which was another good one. It's Vanessa meeting at the secret location with Luca. The Kingpin's one of his lieutenants, one of the crew guys runs a crew somewhere. And that scene was pretty good. Yeah. Because they lay it out there. Like Luca shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm pissed. You know, no one's really earning. And then this asshole bills me for $2 million. And she's like, no, that was me because you didn't pay attention to the rules. And I'm like, okay, this good dynamic going back and forth here. But Luca starts hinting like overtly, you know, maybe it's time for a change because everybody was doing better when you were in charge. And, you know, and then what was the line from her was,
is that a threat?
No, are you asking for permission or are you asking for help? That's the line I was talking about. And I'm like, okay, so we're seeing the split. And I'm like, okay, they've been leading us to this logical plot point for 7 episodes.
Yep.
Marriage therapy is not going well.
Them not being seen together. They built that pretty well.
He killed her boyfriend and just left him back in a cell. That guy's dead.
Her even saying that, you know, it was I made this bulletproof. We made more money when I was in charge. Yeah.
That was episode 1. And they slickly set the next scene, the next time we see Vanessa, she's sending a text, and you know, even if you paused and blew up the screen, because I did, it doesn't have a contact name. It just has a number, which is
it has a number, and she gives an address. He'll be alone.
He'll be alone. So I'm like, oh snap! So here comes the hit. So you're watching. You're like, all right, how's this going down? We know the Kingpin's not going to die, obviously, but obviously it's Luca that takes the message. But they film it properly. They don't show you his phone, so you don't know if she called Fisk to get at Luca or the other way around. So they played it enough to string you along to make it interesting. But then they unplay it. Actually, I guess they played it right. He walks into the restaurant where the Kingpin's at. There's no one there. There's no wait staff. The lights are off, and the Kingpin has his back to the door. And I was like, fuck this show. There's no chance this dude sits with his back to the door. Pop. Fucking thanks, Buck. And then I go back to eating.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I like that. So the Kingpin and Vanessa.
I did not see Buck standing there either. Dude blended into the dark so well.
Shadow. Dude, that dude was Sam Fisher. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. He Splinter Celled that ass. And it sounded like it too, because I was like,
yep.
He double tapped his ass in the head. Right. And it was abrupt enough that I didn't startle. I didn't go quite that far, but it was close because they timed that shot really well where Luca just straight walked across the floor, The
pulled
gun
his
was
gun
coming
out
up.
and
Yeah.
was coming.
It was fast. It wasn't like
Yeah.
a tentative, slow stock. Like he was just going to do it and go. And then Buck put him down. And then the Kingpin just doing his this dude eating is creepy as fuck. Not quite as creepy as Denethor with the grapes, drizzling down his mouth. It's not bad.
Yeah. The
This
grape
is like-
tomatoes.
Yeah, you grape tomato, right? You know what I'm talking about. He's like, Buck, do me a favor and see if Vanessa wants me to bring home some steak, whatever the fuck it was. And I'm like, and then it cuts to black. Like, that's it. That's it. That's the end of the show. And I'm like, okay. So we went through some rough patches with this episode, but at least they did this. And it was an interesting development within the Fisk Vanessa relationship. This is a nifty subversion. We hate that word, right?
Yeah.
This was a good one because again, they had shown us the downward trajectory of this marriage, going back to that crap Echo show that it's based from. Was Vanessa in Daredevil?
She was
the old
not.
show?
Yes, she was in the first season. Same actress.
So that's what I'm saying. The character and Fisk have been involved for a long time cinematically. So we've seen this relationship, and I'm off my camera. We've seen this relationship just like sputter down into nothing. It goes off the deep end in Echo when Fisk is away because he got shot in the face by some random crap superhero that nobody remembers now. And now he's back, and we thought this relationship was like done. And it's funny because the way they played this scene out at the end was an inverse of the beginning of the episode where Heather comes by to see Matt. Their relationship was good, but then he says sometimes it feels like it's fake. And they almost have a moment there with like a little bit of friction, a little bit of fight, but he talks himself out of it because he's charming, and that makes sense.
Well, he was talking about like this life feels fake because he tried to push down the trauma, and that's what. And she went into therapy mode on that and tried to talk him out of it, and he even made a joke about it. Yeah,
but that was good. So, speaking of the trauma, though, I've never. I don't know if you have. You usually pay a little bit more attention to these kind of details. Have you ever watched the opening credits to this like closely, like the animated sequence that they have?
Yeah, I watched it the first couple times for the first 2 episodes.
So I didn't notice that what's happening in the opening sequence there is it's the Statue of Liberty or the Scales of Justice, the woman with the sword and the scales, and the church at a church steeple crumbling, but then those crumble into the devil horn and then form the statue of him that's building.
Yeah, and he comes from the ground up. If you remember the Netflix series, it dripped down as he was like coming down. This one is he's rising from the ashes of who he was.
So you're saying he's born again?
Born again.
But I had never noticed that sequence before, and I liked it because I just kind of I attached it, I think, more strongly to these last couple of episodes because we're seeing both of these characters born again. You mentioned put the suit back on. I'm like, the Kingpin put the fucking suit back on too. Last week he had the white jacket on, I think, when he bashed at him up. I think he was in the Kingpin attire there.
Yeah, you see them breaking out of the shell that they were in based on the trauma they went through. Even Buck, we saw some growth with Buck when he was talking about, wouldn't it be unethical that you use your power to go after the guy and put you in jail?
That was good.
And he keeps trying to hang on to the lie, like I promised the city, and it's like no one knows what his end game is of why he wanted to be mayor. So this plays quite well, is that he trying to put on this facade of that he's a reformed, different man. He's here for the people now, and then his inner, I would say, villain is coming out and is breaking out slowly, and that's how he like ripped, like in the last episode you saw where he ripped his suit, is that he's outgrowing this shell that he put himself in to become mayor.
He had a really good, his little monologue at the beginning of this episode picks up your point really well, where he's talking about, I built an empire and this dickweed destroyed it in like a year. They had blue collar millionaires, right down to like the dock workers, and everybody was happy and this and that. This is a classic example of the villain that doesn't know he's the villain in the story. He really doesn't know.
Everyone's a hero in their own story.
Right. So, I mean, at least they got that part right in the episode with him. I had a couple of other just like loose ends that I saw on the list here that I just wanted to get. We get a quick scene with BB and the Buttlicker character on Fisk's team.
Yeah.
The kid that got drunk last episode.
Who in the comic book of this storyline is Vanessa and Kingpin's son.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Also named Daniel.
I don't. Oh, that's right. His name's Daniel on the show. That's right. So they have this scene, and they try to play it out like this kid has like a scrap ton of menace, like the Kingpin does, where he calls BB in and he's like, "You boned me by putting out the mayor of garbage story.
Yeah,
like screw you, should have done that." And she was like, "Oh fuck you, you were high, whatever. I don't know if you were talking out of your ass to impress me." And then he tries to give her the veiled threat of, decide how you want to be, because I'm giving you an opportunity with a great man. Your life can be greater, it can suck. And she says, "Are you threatening me?" And he's like, no, I just want to see you make the right decision. And the act goes full tilt, terrified, like he pulled a gun on her. And I'm like, nope. Leslie Headland showed up and directed this scene because this shit don't work. And I'm like, you guys only had 10 seconds. How did you screw up 10 seconds of screen time? But they did. Well, just one more clunk.
Well, when the Kingpin kills your uncle, and this guy's kind of close to the Kingpin, it might
all true story wise, but the way it's done matters still. And Daniel doesn't. There was no menace. It was almost cartoonish. Like I think he tried to get American Psycho, Christian Bale, laughy menace, but no. My initial gut reaction was to like giggle and be like when he tried that, and then she's like starting to twitch. Like he didn't grab you by the hair, he didn't grab you by the arm as you were trying to go. Like he's not Muse. Like he didn't bash you into a wall. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of that in this episode this week, man. I don't know. I don't even remember what the other one was. We're just gonna let that one go.
Yeah. So I'll definitely say this episode was a misstep. It might not, crash the whole series, but this episode definitely was a misstep, especially after the last two episodes that were really good.
It definitely doesn't crash. You need multiple missteps, and you need catastrophic missteps in there to kind of do any kind of damage. And at the end of the day, this episode misstep, but it did move the story and the plot forward. Muse is dead. The Kingpin's reconciled with Vanessa. Matt's further down the rabbit hole, maybe alienating more from Heather, who will probably figure out that he's Daredevil. Angela might figure that out too, by the way, because they're both aware of his voice being present where they were attacked, traumatized, whatever. And she had a pretty banger line where she finally snaps on Muse, and she was like, only fucking cowards wear masks. I'm like, Daredevil was 5 feet away when that happened because he was smashing through a window like seconds later, and this dude was hearing people in New Jersey over like the river last week. So he heard her say that. They have to use that moment. They have to.
Yeah.
They're not going to, but they should, just for the conflict points. But so let's wrap up with this then. We got a double episode next week. I haven't seen titles. I haven't seen synopses. What should they do with episode 8? Let's not even worry about 9. What should they do next?
So I think it's going to be him having a close call with the anti-vigilante task force. The next episode is him asking for help as that they close in, and then of course the last one will be the climax of the anti-vigilante task force going up against the vigilantes.
So then what are they doing? So, wait, that happens in 10? You think that's like the finale?
Yeah.
So what do they do in between? Like if next week he gets the Punisher to back him up and handle the task force, what do they do with that second to last? Like what do we?
No, that first one is him like getting beat up by them and narrowly escaping.
Coming in at the end of that for episode 9.
Episode 9 is him getting the help of the Punisher, and then 10 is the vigilantes versus the vigilante task force.
I could see that. You think we're up for any hidden cameos? Like I'm not aware of any spoilers out there or your rumors of cameos even.
No, I think we got all the ones we're going to get.
Who else did we get? What did I forget about?
Miss Marvel's dad.
Miss Marvel's dad. Right. Great. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah. No She-Hulk. That ain't happening. Thank God.
That's not happening. And a lot of people are still hoping for like a Luke Cage or Iron Fist or Jessica Jones appearance.
Yes, that could be kind of dope.
So we might see that. I doubt it. I don't think that was in the budget or in the story. And they really haven't made plans to bring those characters back. Like they've hinted at Luke Cage, because in Times Square you see was it Harlem's Paradise? You see ads for that, which is Luke Cage's club now. If at the end of season 2 that's his club.
Also, it's a nice little bit of world building there.
Yeah.
I like how you tied it into budget, being like a restrictor. What they could do, it would just be, as a fan, I think it would be really fun, would be if they just had a spider shadow swing by and somebody just have a one-liner.
And that would lead me into my next question for you to kind of close this out.
Yeah,
is that we had, like we saw on Netflix, they had the street level guys have their own, and then they had Defenders for Hire, which they called the Defenders, or Heroes for Hire, which they called the Defenders.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What if they went with the TV shows as the street level heroes, and then the only crossover is Spider-Man, since he does live in both worlds as the street level hero and in Avenger, where most of the other street level guys don't get that call up to the Avengers roster?
I think that works because Spider-Man's the only hometown kid that has that kind of power level where he can hang with the Avengers. Like he can throw cars, you know what I mean? He can ostensibly fly. His wound healing's kind of up there. His power set changes as they go, but that would make for a good little bridge because he is based out of New York. He doesn't, he could be available for that kind of stuff. But I think even if they didn't, I mean, they're not affording, like if they can't get Kristen Ritter on Daredevil Born Again because of cost, they're not getting Tom Holland. You know what I mean? But that's why I said if you CG the shadow, I mean not even the shadow, a red and a blue, a blur,
or a black and the red,
dude. You could do Miles here.
Yeah.
But I think they're saving that. They should be saving that for like live action. Here you get the verse already. New Day. New Day is the new one. Brand new day is actually
Brand New Day. That's it. Yep, that's it. Brand New Day.
I'm like New Home. I don't know.
Well, all of the last three were all something with home. Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home. New Home sounds like
brand new smile. Dude, Brand New Day is the shittiest title I think they could have gone with, though. It's so on the nose, like lame. I don't know, man. I was like, and my stepdaughter showed me the poster for it, and I was like, okay, is that like a fan made one? She was like, no, it's on like the Marvel.com site. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's the movie then. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so, that one won't be coming out till late 2026.
Yep, we got a while for that. So there's a lot of Marvel in between, but we'll see what happens. I'm not that intrigued to see Thunderbolts, even though I got that trailer pops up on streaming now like every 5 seconds.
I'm
Shadow of Sentry.
I think it could be fun. I think it'd be like a fun little joyous ride.
We'll see. I get it needs to be as good as Guardians to pull that off, and nothing is. Like that's the thing. Like Suicide Squad, not as
because
good.
It doesn't have James Gunn.
Well, true, but neither will Thunderbolts. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
But all right. So next week, Daredevil has a 2-piece. On Tuesday night,
full episode of nothing but Daredevil NetSuite. That's been our MO here during this run because it doesn't really fit in the schedule to do a separate video. So we just been dedicating FrostCast to it.
And after we crunch this show, as soon as Daredevil's over in 2 weeks' time, Andor happens. I think literally that week, doesn't it? Isn't that the?
It's the week after. So it's like the finale of Daredevil, the very NetSuite Andor kicks off.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And in between those, The Last of Us kicks off.
Oh, that's right. That runs up against or with.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a busy month.
It's going to be a busy month.
I have a suspicion The Last of Us is in for an awakening of sorts. We'll see. But all right, why don't we bail? We've gone over time. We appreciate folks in the chat popping by. Mages Guild, if you're still there, hello. Izap, if you're still there, also hello. And anybody I missed because I don't have the chat up right now because the Oracle does that, so I don't get distracted. But King Z, a non-profound goodbye. I messed up my own line.
Well, see ya.